Well, good afternoon, everybody. RV living with the geezer. It's Monday. It's Wednesday afternoon, March 1st, and I'm just out for a little ride on these back roads. So I'm holding my camera, and of course, comes somebody up on my bumper already. So I'm just gonna pull over and let them go by, and y'all can look at that, at those longhorns right there. That's the place. They're up right by the fence today. Let's get this window down. Get a good shot of him. Yeah, little one. Here's old big boy. Beautiful animals. Texas Longhorn. Got some horses back over there. Yeah, I love the livestock up here. Here's some, let's see out here. Oh boy. See, there's another one right there. That's a Brahma. That's a Brahma bull. See the hump? Yeah, we're hitting the jackpot again today, guys. But yeah, that's not the reason for the video. Yeah, I been talking about telling you my hunting stories, and my buddy RL, he commented, and he said that he hadn't been able to sleep. He's in such high anticipation. So I don't want RL to go any more sleepless nights out there. And I believe he lives in Arizona. Okay, so I might have to break this down into two because it'd be probably a pretty long video. I'll just start off. My dad, when he grew up out in Arizona, from the time he was 14 until he was 17, about 3 years there, him and a couple of his buddies, the day school got out, would go up into the Chiricahua Mountains, which was about 60 miles from where they lived in Douglas, Arizona, and they'd spend the whole summer. Come back right before school started. Back then, it started like in September. They'd spend like 3 months up there and live off the land, and they just fished and hunted. So my first hunting experience, my dad had me a little later in life. He had me when he was 50. So I was 10, and he said, he gave me a 410 shotgun, which is the smallest caliber of shotgun that's made, a bolt action, and I still have it. That was for my 10th birthday, and I'd never been hunting. I'd had a BB gun, you know. So he took me quail hunting down in Cotulla, Texas. There was a lease down there, and that's quail country, and we just went down there. I think we spent 2 nights, and we just slept in the back of his 59 Ford. You know, back then they were all just regular cab pickups. And he had a tarp in the back. We laid on that tarp and out in the open and looked up at the sky and had a campfire. He knew how to do all that stuff. He was a survivor. And so we, you know, shot birds, and, you know, he taught me a lot about safety. And now they have to take a hunter safety course before you can get a hunting license. But back then, my gosh, here comes somebody up like 50 behind me on this road. What is wrong with these people up here? Look at that. Oh, I'm not going to miss that at all. But yeah, so that's my first experience. And then right then, around that time period when I was 10, is about the time the Delgados moved onto the ranch. And I told you about them. I told you how they hunted and fished and they ate every bit of food that they ever shot or caught. It was for survival. And my dad taught me that too, and I've always been that way. I've never been a big hunter. I really didn't enjoy it. Some of my, this is a bad intersection right here. Get out here. Some of my friends, they spend money to go to Colorado every year, and they're chasing horns, and I've never found a recipe to fix antlers that make them taste good. Like deer horn soup, or I just don't know how you would do that. I just don't see spending thousands of dollars to go kill an animal and hang the head on your wall, and they bait them, they feed them, and they shoot them from like 50 yards away. That's disgusting to me. But as far as hunting, if you're gonna eat the meat that you kill, there's nothing at all wrong with that. And I mean, that's the way the Delgados survive. So anyway, they came along when I was 10, about that same time period that my dad had taken me, and they moved on to the ranch, and that just was a life-changing event for me. I learned so much from those people, and right off the bat, we all had BB guns back then, Daisy lever action BB guns, and we would go out into the ranch we grew up on was 320 acres, and it's all sold off mainly now, but back then about 80 acres was buildings and houses for that institute that my uncle had, and the other what would that be, 240 acres would have been woods, and we'd go out, and it had a creek running through it that had water in it, and we would go out with the BB guns, and we would when we were like 10 or 11, we would shoot the robins would come into the area, passing through, and we would shoot little old robins that have a nice, and doves. And we had, we didn't have hunting licenses back then. This is in the 50s, early 60s, and we'd make campfire out there, and we'd pluck and clean those birds, and get a little cedar stick with a point on it, and put them on there and roast them, and sit there and eat them, and we never wasted anything. And then we'd go down to the creek down there and fish, and it was it had bass and it had perch, and we'd catch stringerfuls and take them back up to their house and clean them and give them to their mother, and they had a freezer, and she would either freeze them or cook them up, and those fried perch were really good. I remember that. But that was the early days, and I did have a bad experience when I was about, I'm thinking I was about 12. We had donkeys out there then, and I was I would work with the donkeys. My dad was in charge of those it was for the kids that came in. Their parents would come in for the classes at that institute, and the kids would ride the donkeys. Well, I was down where the donkey pens were, right on the edge of the pasture, and I'm probably cleaning up poo-poo or whatever, and I heard this screaming out in the woods, and I was like 12 years old, and so I started heading that way. Somebody was really in bad dire straits, and they were screaming, and I just missed my turn off. That ain't good. But, and I used to live off that road. How did I miss that? But, yeah, they were screaming and hollering out there, and so I moseyed on out there, I got out there, and my aunt, who married to my uncle that owned the place, she was a devout Catholic, I mean strong, and she had invited her priest from San Antonio. He wanted to hunt, of all things, and it was hunting season. He did it legally and everything. He came out. I'm going to turn into this little church right here in this part one after this little story. This is where I had my wreck, right here, that head on, right here. He had brought a young man out with him, I guess part of the church or a friend of his, and they were in some heavy brush, and they were separated, and this friend of his was a very inexperienced hunter, and he heard movement in the brush, and he just turned and fired, and he shot his name was Father Jurashek, very well-known priest in San Antonio. He shot Father Jurashek in the thigh, one of his thighs, with like a 30-06. And of course, Father Jurashek was laying on the ground, bleeding. I got over there, and bleeding profusely, and he was still conscious, and he told me, he said, "Take my belt off." And I took and the guy that shot him, he couldn't do anything. He was freaking out. He was probably in his 20s. And Father Jurashek was a man up in his maybe 50s or 60. "Take my belt off," and he told me to make a tourniquet up above where he was shot. And he said, "Stand on it," and he made me stand on it and pull that belt up as tight as it would go. And then we just wrapped it around itself there. And back then there was no emergency medical services. They would send a private ambulance out to pick up somebody like that. And that mainly they would just haul dead bodies. And they hauled him to the hospital, and he didn't get his leg amputated, but he had a terrible, he had to use a cane the rest of his life. He had a terrible limp, and that's just scarred me. That really turned me off to hunting when that happened, and you can understand why. But I've been talking a long time already, so I got second part to this. The best part, really, is my times hunting up in Cherokee after I got married, and my wife's grandma had that ranch up there, and we'd take the Delgados up there with us, and I've got some great stories, and took old Big Jim one time with us, and yeah, I've got some. That'll be part 2 of this. So anyway, RL, I hope you can sleep tonight, buddy, and yeah, get out of your anticipation. You got 50% of it behind you. But yeah, I was never big on the hunting, and but I do feel good that we always consumed what we ate, and we helped feed that Delgado family with what we got. Yeah, we caught a lot of fish out of that creek. We ate a lot of fish, and legally and illegally. But I'll get more into that on part 2. So I'm sitting here in the driveway of the Branded Cross Cowboy Church off of Keeter Road. Yeah, and so peace out, everybody. This video's gone 14 minutes. That's long for me. Peace out. Stay blessed. By all means, stay positive, guys, and talk to the Lord once in a while. It'll work wonders for you. All right. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.